what is not scientific in a study is waiting until midterms to do anything about it, which is what Bloomberg reported about the FDA's action. Considerations of politics are not scientific data points, and that is the political reality of what is going on very, very clearly. What they should do is take it off the market like you would with Theraflu. If you had 2 deaths or 2 coercion stories related to Theraflu that led to something terrible, you take it off the market, you study it, and you figure out whether it should go back on. But right now there is so much evidence, and it's just met with a yawn. Any other drug, if it didn't have the abortion scare around it, would be off the market right now. They'd be studying it now, trying to figure out what's going on.
Welcome back to Problematic Women. I'm Virginia Allen. We are so glad to have you here, where it is not wrong to be right. And we are changing things up a little bit on the show today. We're excited to have with us in studio Marjorie Dannenfelser. She serves as the president of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. And we're diving deep into one issue today, and that is all things abortion, the pro-life movement. Where do we stand right now? So Marjorie, thank you for being with us. It is such a joy and such a pleasure to have you.
I love being in your little home. It's just so sweet.
It is a home.
This is the place of my very first job. It just feels like coming home.
That is so crazy. And I won't ask you to reveal the date of that very first
I don't mind. I've never been worried about that. It was in 1988.
1988. Amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very full circle within the conservative movement in Washington, D.C. that you just kind of move around from place to place. And
it's kind of like Atlanta. You can't get there without going through Heritage Foundation in Atlanta.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's very accurate. Yeah, I love it. Well, it's an interesting time, I feel like, within the pro-life movement. And I've been thinking about the fact that we've watched so much shift, I would say, really within the past 5 years within the pro-life movement. You all at Susan B. Anthony, you guys are one of the leading conservative organizations, leading pro-life organizations in the world that's really talking about this issue from every single angle. But Marjorie, I feel like there's like a little bit of almost like a tone of we've moved on. And there's other issues, and it's like after Roe v. Wade was overturned, like, all right, now we're kind of on to the next thing. And I have a theory for why that might be, and I want your reaction to this. So I think before Roe v. Wade, the whole pro-life movement, all of the GOP, we were all moving in one direction, and that was Roe v. Wade needs to be overturned. Once Roe v. Wade was overturned, it got a lot more technical. It's dealing with issues at the state level. It's the abortion pill. It's funding to Planned Parenthood. It's a little stickier, and quite frankly, maybe not as sexy. So I'm curious.
I think you're close to it, I think.
Yeah.
I think,
correct me where you think I'm off.
I mean, I'll just add. How about that? Because I think it's trickier because it's harder when it's real. And Roe was the backstop for any elected official to get to say whatever they wanted. Like, we need to protect every single child from conception until natural death. The pro-life position, of course, that's what we all want. Because there was Roe back there that was going to prevent any of that from happening. There would never be any political fallout from saying there'd be marginal political fallout from saying any of those things. You could embrace your own heart's desire and a low percentage acceptance issue in the public, whether we like it or not. We're not. It isn't a majority at conception that embraces it. So I think it just got harder, and when it gets hard, political fear sets in. We saw that before our very eyes, and so I think that what did you say, that there was a sense of we're done or slowing it down or moving on to other things. Moving on is kind of like there's this huge, enormous circus show act or this massive moment in history, and then there's the commentator like, moving on, there's nothing to see here. Well, there is a lot to see here. Every state moving to protect children in their own state, the massive fight, the ballot initiatives. I mean, there is so much action, so much activity, and then to the place of how will we govern in the long term? Is this something that there is any national stance on? Should there be among conservatives, among Republicans and pro-lifers? Is the 14th Amendment, does it have anything to do with unborn children, or is it just equal protection for everybody else who's been born? And so when the president Let me just back up a little bit. I think if you were there on that Dobbs Day, which I know you were, everyone is celebrating. It's huge. It's a big deal. We had done massive amounts of work because we're the political arm of the pro-life movement in the political arena here, just steps away from your studio here on the Hill. And talking points, how will we speak? We'll speak with kindness, with boldness. We will definitely take a stand on some federal minimum standard. Not really acceptable to most to pro-lifers that we would end there, but maybe a place to be in. That was kind of set. And then what happened was a storm much bigger than to them than was forecasted in their own minds. And then basically they said nothing. Democrats said everything. There was fear across the land, including in the heart of the president, and who wasn't president then, and a lot of fear about how will we handle this. And the formula that always loses is pretend like it's not happening. No matter what the issue, no matter if it's at your table at home, you ignore it and it goes away. Never, ever, ever true. Even though that did happen at that time in 22 in those midterms, which is just 3 months, September, October, 2 months after Dobbs. 2 months. 3 months, 4 months, whatever. It was close.
It was all kind of in that same time frame.
Yeah, still, no sitting Republican senator or governor lost their races that year. So there is a great underestimation of the hearts of the people, the motivator that it is, and whether it matters.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, from a moral perspective, from a policy perspective, we know that it matters. But like we've talked about, it's. I don't like to say that it's become more nuanced because in reality, I don't think it has. Like the issue's always been the issue. We protect life because all life is sacred. And yet the policy side is maybe a little more complicated than it used to be.
Because people care more.
Because people care. They care deeply. They have strong opinions. States, obviously, now that it's back at the state level, states are coming at this from different perspectives. Of course, the fights in California look very different than the fights in South Carolina. Like it's different. They're different angles, and many court battles, as you guys are very, very familiar with. Is there a lot of consensus, or would you say more disagreement between the GOP lawmakers in Washington, D.C., who say they are conservative, and the pro-life movement? Are they agreeing right now?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about should the Hyde Amendment, keeping taxpayer funds out of the abortion business, unity. Not at the White House, but definitely on Capitol Hill.
Not at the White House,
Not at the White House, because they're flexible on whether the Hyde Amendment stays or doesn't stay in healthcare and the subsidy extensions that is being debated right now.
Okay.
So they're flexible on that. There is no disagreement, really, that's real. None. A few moderate Republicans, which always means pro-choice / pro-abortion or don't really care. So there's widespread agreement that you if it's the death of a person or maybe a death of a person, or you just think some people care a lot. You pay for your own abortion. Don't make me pay for it.
Yeah.
It's been popular. It's been 1976. That's how long it's been. Anyway, there is consensus there. But I would say, is there consensus on where a national limit should be? I think what you saw, I know what we saw because I was on the Hill every day at the time after Dobbs. What we saw was our strongest pro-life leaders were very worried that back home they would be criticized for being for anything short of where their own state was. So at conception, at heartbeat, if I go any further out to 12 weeks or anything like that, everybody back home is going to get royally pissed, and so I better not do anything. That I'm not saying they all did that.
Yeah.
A lot of them did.
Yeah.
Then on the other end, if you were from Wisconsin or Michigan, which has 100%, abortion unlimited abortion, and you say I'm for a 12-week, 15-week limit, whatever, then they're like, holy cow, you're taking our rights away, and so there was just fear in every regard. You just ask, is there unity? What I see is, however, after a few years, that there is a little bit of the fear is abating. There's a much stronger desire to have discussions among them and with us about where to go on policy. Yeah. I think it's much more fruitful. The big problem, honestly, is the head of the Republican Party, which is the president and the White House right now.
Okay, and why? Why is that the problem?
It is because I know this. I spoke often with the president in the first term. We were great allies. We delivered a lot in the battleground states. He made very strong commitments, followed through on all of them, led to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. When it came to second time around, there was no deal. It was great concern that, in his words, this issue is going to kill us. I can't tell you how many times I heard that. Pretty much every elected official that I know well was told that as well. It's basically dial it down. We're going to make that go away by making it a states issue only. I'm not messing with this around here. So some things around the edges perhaps were important. Defunding Planned Parenthood. Now, it wouldn't have happened without Mike Johnson and Thune, and there was submission over there on that issue. Meaning I'm pointing at the White House right now. That direction. I'm thinking it's over there. But there is. I can tell you firsthand that their wish is just that we would just please go away, and there is very little concern that will have any political effect because they think. They're a cheap date. Where are they going to go anyway? I mean, I think no matter how old you are as a woman, you never want to hear you're a cheap date. So something that is very true is that it's time for our friendly and determined and firm voices be heard, especially from women to this party. Yeah. That you jettison the pro-life issue and you jettison voters who will stay home.
I think there was, and I'll say this because I've heard it from GOP lawmakers. I think the response that many say is, but we've never had a president that has done more for the pro-life movement than President Trump. Yeah. And maybe it really is up to the states. Maybe it's really like the president does need to be hands off because Roe v. Wade was overturned. He can kind of say, done and dusted on my end. Now, governors, you handle it.
Well, since we are a United States and the federal government does indeed have a limited role, we want it to have a limited role. When it comes to life, one hopes that life would that would be the first of all the rights. It would just be the moral compass that would tell you yes. But what has happened, and since it's done and dusted, and it's very hands off, the pills that are being mailed into all the states undermining the sovereignty of those state laws means that the abortion rate has gone up. Yeah. And the lack of action by this administration to just restore its first administration policy of it not going through the mail. It was a COVID-era Biden decision to let all those pills, as harmful as they are, death-dealing to children, harmful to women, all the data shows. And that they went out in the mail. We see the result. And now this administration has not restored that policy. It does not need a study to restore their own former policy. Yeah. It could just be, you should get a sonogram to see if you have an ectopic pregnancy. You should know what is the gestation of that baby. It's not safe for mother to have an abortion with mifepristone at 14 weeks. Mm-hmm. These are things you can't know. And yet they're kind of tacitly accepting the lie that it's as safe as Tylenol, which is the biggest lie on earth.
And of course, the administration has come out recently with some big condemnation for Tylenol itself. So.
Ironically, it's kind of head spinning. So look, I say this as I think you've referred to this, like the friendship and the promise is fulfilled. While they put this sort of theoretical movement into a real place, a place to really save lives. We've ended up losing more than we've gained because of the lack of follow-through. When the door was open because of Dobbs, now it's being closed shut because of the lack of political will by some Republicans, and mainly at the top.
Interesting. Okay, Marjorie, I think it's important that we go a little bit deeper on that abortion pill aspect because we have seen about 2/3 of abortions are performed with the pill now. So that's about 63 out of every 100 women that choose to have an abortion that's being performed with the pill. And just to sort of back up and give the layout of events. So we saw that there were protections put in place, like you mentioned, in order to protect women from receiving that pill in the mail, not having spoken with the doctor. President Biden rolled those back, and those two key issues that you mentioned, the fact that, okay, this means that women who might have an ectopic pregnancy would be taking that, very dangerous to them. Or, they could think, I'm only 6 weeks pregnant. In reality, they're 12 weeks. Very, very different things and very dangerous.
Some other syndromes. Like you have RH factor in your first pregnancy. You need a blood test to tell you whether it's a live birth or an abortion or anything. If you have that, then it is a death-dealing threat to your second child. And if you never know you have it, you can't be treated. If you know you have it, you can be very easily treated. So it truly is health of mom. Focused, and along with obviously hundreds of thousands of children and future children.
What this administration has done is they have said, what the current Trump administration has said is, okay, we know that there's major concerns around the abortion pill. Let's look at this. Let's review it. And so the Food and Drug Administration, they are in the process. They announced last year that they are going to review the abortion pill in September. I want to read the quote. They said, a review of the evidence, including real-world outcomes and evidence relating to the safety and efficiency of the drug. So that was the plan, announced in September. And there have been accusations, though, that the FDA is kind of slow-walking this review process. So my colleague, Elizabeth Mitchell, our White House correspondent here at the Daily Signal, she had the opportunity to sit down with the FDA commissioner and kind of ask him that, saying, hey, there have been these accusations. What do you say to that? So let's go ahead and roll this clip, because I think this is important to hear.
Today, a report came out saying that the FDA is slow-walking the start of the review on the abortion pill that a lot of senators have called for. I wanted to give you the opportunity to respond to that by asking, has that review begun?
Yeah, so there's a lot of rumors that are circulating out there. We live in a very partisan time, and so you're going to see the echo chambers of social media sort of magnify rumors, things that are just not true. There has been an ongoing review of mifepristone. It's actually required as part of a policy called REMS. And so there's always an ongoing review of that medication. And we need to be open to the fact that maybe there's a new drug-drug interaction that was not appreciated. Maybe there's a complication that was not recognized previously. And so we do an ongoing review, but we're also engaging in a robust study that can serve to validate or not validate other numbers that have been put out there in the literature. And so what we find in our study will be put out there in the literature, and it can be part of that broader discussion nationally. We're not going to decide what the results are before we've done the study. We're doing the study the right way, and when you do the study the right way, and I've done dozens of these studies as a Johns Hopkins professor. You got to do the studies in data the right way with the right pace. And when you do that, you really cannot predict either the results or the time frame for that study. So we're doing it the right way.
Okay, so are you satisfied with that answer?
Oh my goodness. Whenever you hear somebody say, we need some more information to introduce into the national conversation, there's no action going on. Now, a lot of things he said are clearly true. Yeah. It's required by law that any drug at the FDA, it gets continual study. That's the rote thing. That's what their obligation is. But he also mentioned that there are real-world consequences of this pill that need to be studied. Actual people who have died, boyfriends who have put this in the drug at the bar, and the girlfriend didn't even know, and she aborts alone at home, doesn't know what's going on. She figures it's a miscarriage. There's a case in Texas. There's a case one in Ohio. A young middle-aged man who had a girlfriend. He's married. He uses his wife's name to order the abortion drug. When his girlfriend was asleep, he stuffed the pills down her throat.
Oh my gosh.
A baby died, and she went to the ER. But you can see the coercion involved in this. And 60% of women say that they wouldn't abort if they had emotional or financial support. This is the opposite of that. This is coercion. This is back alley abortion in pill form. And let me just go back to Dr. McCary. So what is not scientific in a study is waiting until midterms to do anything about it, which is what Bloomberg reported about the FDA's action, that it was considerations of politics are not scientific data points, and that is the political reality of what is going on very, very clearly. What they should do is take it off the market, like you would with Theraflu. If you had 2 deaths or 2 coercion stories related to Theraflu that led to something terrible, you take it off the market, you study it, and you figure out whether it should go back on. But right now there is so much evidence, and there are a lot of studies, and it's just met with a yawn. Any other drug, if it didn't have the abortion, scare around it, would be off the market right now. They'd be studying it now, trying to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Wow. So you mentioned policies that were in place during the first Trump administration that have not been put back in place yet.
Yeah.
Would that make a significant difference right away?
That would be it. I mean, if the president could do that tonight if he wanted to, and he's got very little fear on just about everything else. Tonight he could restore that policy. It would mean that in-person visits with a physician would be required. It gets it out of the mail so that New York and California abortionists are not mailing these drugs into all the pro-life states, resulting in increased abortion rates in those very states that perhaps have a heartbeat or a life at conception law. So it could happen immediately, and it could happen for all sorts of reasons, including the scientific reasons, a concern for the children that are dying, concern for state sovereignty, and a concern for women who are now all these reports out. I mean, every couple of weeks there's a new horror story like the one I told you about, the Illinois and Ohio. They're coming out of every state, Texas, Louisiana, and just think about it. If you're in college and you're a guy, and you find and this is happening. You go online. You don't have to be a woman or pregnant to get it. Who's going to find out? You get the pills online. You store them up just in case, and just in case happens. And then, the what we don't know, of course, is concerning. What we do know is compelling.
One of we could spend a whole episode just talking about the pill because it's so huge, and really, honestly, I think the abortion pill, if we can get this right, it's like, man, the number of lives that will be saved.
Absolutely,
I think immediately. There's like we've said, there's so many different aspects of the fight for life that are really critical right now. I would argue that's the most critical one.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
I think that would be the most urgent and critical, without question.
Yeah.
We can talk about the future of Republican leadership, future presidents, what they might do. There is nothing more urgent than this. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of children. And if you start thinking about each one of them, it gets a little bit more moving, just the one, just the two. And the fact that
we have to get outside the big numbers, because big numbers is just a big number. But it's like, if these are people,
these are people. Each one of them has a purpose. Sit in the world for something only that person can do. And those mothers have things that are going on in their lives that sometimes horrific, sometimes so compelling, heart-wrenching. And the answer to them, say it's addiction, say it's rape, say it is a whole range of things. What is their need? What is their actual need? Is it, do they not have a job? They want to finish their career? Are they addicted? Poverty, all sorts of things. Those are the complicated and sticky jobs of the neighbor. And we at SBA Pro-Life America, we are very, very focused on this very thing, how community answers and responses through churches especially to meet the needs of women who find themselves at that place and really are in need of things, not abortion, but the circumstances in their lives.
How is the church, broader community doing on that level since Roe? Because that was one of the biggest, and in talking to a lot of folks in the pro-life movement, they say, that's one of the most legitimate criticisms of the pro-life movement is that, like, all right, great, you saved the kid, now what? And I think in some ways, with Roe being overturned, it did feel like there was a little bit of the pro-life movement almost being caught off guard. Like, whoa, after years and years of fighting, we actually won. What? And then it was like, okay, are we ready? Are we ready to receive the kids, support the moms? We're several years removed from Roe v. Wade being overturned. How is the pro-life movement, how is the church doing on that front?
Yeah, I think, I don't think we ever would have said, okay, we're ready now. Yeah. Because there's so much, there is so much to the the millions of people that we're talking about. It requires a community and church response, and very sophisticated in ways that we would handle other very difficult and compelling. Do I think the church has done great? In general, depending on who you're talking about. Catholic Church has done a pretty decent job. I think the problem, and other individual churches have done pretty well. I think it just requires unique solutions to unique situations that people that you're living in a community with are far more capable of handling than us sitting here in D.C. saying do it. Yeah. So we have a program called Her Plan. It's Her Pregnancy and Life Assistance Network, and the whole point is to start building communities around. We started in states, especially that had strong pro-life laws enacted, and build community through churches and through pregnancy centers, filling gaps in care for the women who are in those situations. And I think that that really changes people. Yeah. It really changes people once you've helped somebody and once they've been helped. Yeah. It's a really beautiful thing to watch.
It is a really beautiful thing to watch. Well, I do want to touch on some big news this week that we saw related to abortion, pro-life movement. So big story is HHS funding specifically to Planned Parenthood. So we saw that, the Trump administration was receiving some criticism. There's been some reporting, including from Elizabeth Mitchell, that really kind of explained. Yeah, she's doing great work. Yeah. So we need to talk about Title 10 real fast. So Title 10, what they do, and I quote, it's a federal grant program dedicated to providing affordable family planning and preventative health services. So the Trump administration, they said, okay, millions of dollars that Planned Parenthood gets in this Title 10 funding, no more. We're not going to give it to them. There was a lawsuit filed, ACLU, no surprise there. The lawsuit was just dropped, and HHS released millions of dollars to Planned Parenthood. Now, the question is, why? Why would they do that? And Elizabeth, she spoke with a number of folks, including the director of government affairs at Catholic Vote, Tom McCluskey, and he said the Trump administration was certain to lose the lawsuit, forcing them to repay the full amount plus interest and cover attorney fees. Why were they certain to lose? Because the Trump administration did not restore the Protect Life rule. That rule was put in place during Trump's first administration. It was rescinded, of course, during the Biden administration. The Protect Life rule provides that any counselor with a Title 10 project can neither refer for nor encourage abortion, which is something that we know Planned Parenthood does. Your take. Did the Trump administration have a choice here?
Well, I've been very critical today, and I have been in general of some of the administration actions or inactions. This one I think is tricky. I think that we were thrilled when right away $100 million was pulled back from Planned Parenthood at HHS, and that was fantastic. The real fix is the Protect Life rule that wasn't enacted in Trump 1 until 3 years in. You have to file it, and then it takes about a year to be enacted. Now, they should have done it right away, as soon as the administration began. But, okay, having failed, let's just talk about what happens when tens of millions of dollars gets restored to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion provider in the country, full of corruption. They're falling apart from the center. And when you restore tens of millions of dollars to them, then they start to build back, and they start to do what they do best, which is to kill their children who are our future. So it's not a small thing, but it is something that I believe that there are people at HHS that are very, very conscientious, very good, and I would just say, do it now. Push, and don't do like you did in the last administration, was wait way into the administration to begin the process, because it just is a legal process that has to start. So I don't overreact to this. I react as, okay, it's really more about lack of vision and than a not caring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it seems like there's a real interest to get this right.
I think there is.
And do it. And I think we'll see that.
I think that's right. The big problem now is really over the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest story now. And that is, I think, where you see a chasm between the Hill and the White House. You have, I know we've already talked about it a little bit, but there is a political consequence to all this and a reality consequence. So if you're going to extend Obamacare subsidies on the backs of funding, taxpayer funding for abortion, which is what the Hyde Amendment would prevent. So you drop that, you get it passed, you drop the Hyde Amendment, you get it passed in the House and the Senate, the president passes it. You've basically kicked this issue out of the party. It's just that fundamental. And we've got a band of people, Bernie Moreno and Jeanne Shaheen and Collins in the Senate working on, basically the same fig leaf that Obama created to get Obamacare passed in the first place, a Hyde fig leaf. They just can't figure out how to do it correctly. And so they keep pushing something that's not going to work. And so that's the big problem. But the leadership in the House and the Senate, Thune and Johnson, and the rank and file Republicans on both sides are firmly committed to the Hyde Amendment. It's the White House that even today, they just put out a report on what they want to see in a healthcare, the Great American Healthcare Bill or something like that, doesn't have the Hyde Amendment in it. So, I mean, were they going to add it somewhere? What are they going to do? I don't think so. I think flexible is what the president said last week to Republicans in the House. He said, we got to be flexible on this Hyde Amendment because we got to get this thing passed. That ignited a firestorm among pro-life organizations and, frankly, has unified the movement in ways that I haven't seen in a little while.
If I were to ask you the top 3 things that you want to see this administration do on the issue of life, would the Hyde Amendment be one of them?
I would say number 1, the abortion drug.
Okay.
Number 1, and then the Hyde Amendment.
Okay.
And then make sure that you understand how this works in politics as well. They'll be very much behind all the battleground elections, and kicking pro-lifers out of the process will lead to losses.
Yeah. Well, this is a conversation that we want to make sure that we're continuing in the days and weeks to come. Of course, it's so critical. And one way that we love to do that here at Problematic Women is with a question of the week. So for all of our listeners out there, question of the week is, do conservatives still care about the abortion issue? We want your thoughts. And I'll ask you, do you think there's still a genuine, real consensus within the conservative movement of, I think for a long time, people would say this is the most important issue. Do you think people would still say that? The conservative movement would still say that?
I think they do. Yeah. I think it's a DC problem. I mean, we in the last election went to 4.5 million homes in battlegrounds. 4.5 million is a lot of walking.
It's a lot of walking.
We have a huge
all your
student
steps were
deployment.
in.
Like all the steps were in. I didn't do it all myself. We have students from 100 colleges all over the country doing this work. And I say that because these conversations at actual human beings' homes that are not really involved in politics, it is the same. It takes something corrosive and rough to say that, I used to think this was the death of a child. I still think it's the death of a child, but I don't really care anymore. This is not like tax deductions or capital gains tax. This is something that is at the heart of the human being. It is really not even a political question.
Yeah.
It just is.
It's a moral question.
It's a moral question. So what we see is not an attrition. In fact, we see the good news is Gallup is showing a strong movement among young people in the right direction. Young people who used to think any abortion is fine anytime, anywhere, for any reason, have dramatically dropped off. That number's dropped 19% since Dobbs. So I think that the data's great. What we see at these homes, and we're doing it now, we're door-to-door in battlegrounds right now. We'll spend $80 million going all these doors. And I'm telling you, that's a huge focus group. And the conviction is there. I don't doubt it at all.
Marjorie, how, if people are listening to you, they're saying, I want to get involved, I want to partner, or just I want to follow your work, see what you're up to. How do they do that?
Come on over. It's just, the easiest way is just Google SBA Pro-Life America. And everything you'll see is a great way to get involved.
Awesome. Marjorie Dannenfelser, President of Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, thank you for your time today. Greatly appreciate you joining the show.
I love it. Invite me back.
Oh, we will.
I love the girl time. Thank you.
I love it too. And I should say to our audience, the March for Life is on Friday. So if you're in Washington, D.C., go out to the march, grab your friends. It's always a real joy. It's always freezing cold, so put your layers on. That's going to be great. We'll see you there.